There is a profound and ancient mystery that separates the truly powerful from the common laborer, and it is not found in the volume of their speech, but in the authority of their silence. I am here to tell you that the greatest tool of leadership is not what you say, but what you have the discipline to withhold. I learned this the hard way through years of ego-driven exhaustion. I was once the man who felt obligated to have an opinion on every subject, running my mouth in every boardroom, every casual meeting, and every petty argument, under the delusion that I was proving my intelligence. But I was hit by a lightning bolt of clarity when I realized that the most successful people I knew, the ones who commanded authentic respect, barely spoke at all. When they did part their lips, the entire room shifted its weight to listen. That is when I understood the governing law of communication. Words are like the currency of a nation. The more you print without value, the more you devalue your own authority. If you spend your words on everything, they will eventually mean nothing. We live in a world where everyone is screaming to be noticed, but in this chaos of noise, your silence can be the most deafening sound in the room. The first stronghold where you must embrace absolute silence is the trap of emotional reaction. Picture the scenario. Someone attacks your character or tries to provoke your spirit with a cut that goes deep. They are fishing for your soul. They want to see you explode so they can govern your state of mind. This is where 99% of humanity fails the test of sovereignty. They take the bait, they react, and they lose their power. But when someone tries to provoke you and you remain as silent as a stone, something miraculous occurs. First, they are denied the satisfaction of their strike. They threw their best punch, and you didn't even flinch. Second, your silence creates a vacuum of uncertainty that makes the attacker question their own reality. Are you so unbothered that their words have no weight? That uncertainty is your dominion. While they are scrambling to figure you out, you have already won the war. I remember a competitor trying to humiliate me in front of high-level clients by twisting a past failure. The old me would have defended, explained, and attacked back. Instead, I looked at him, gave a slight smile, and said nothing. The room went silent. I moved to the next point of my presentation and signed the biggest deal of my career, because that silence communicated a level of professional security that no defense could ever match. The second situation where silence is your mandate is when you are in the presence of someone sharing their pain. This is where most people commit a catastrophic error. We jump in with advice and solutions that were never requested because we are uncomfortable with the quiet. But your job is not to be a mechanic of the soul. It is to be a witness to the experience. Your silence is a sacred space that tells the sufferer, without words, that their feelings are valid. When my closest friend was drowning in the sorrow of a divorce, I kept drowning him in strategies until he finally looked at me and asked me to just listen. That hit me like a hammer. My words were a distraction from his healing. From that day on, I practiced the art of silent support, and our connection reached a depth that words could never navigate. Thirdly, you must master silence during the dance of negotiation. It is a fundamental law of the spirit. The person who speaks first after an offer is made is the one who concedes the territory. When you state your price and then shut your mouth, you create a psychological pressure that the other person feels a desperate need to fill. In that void, they will often reveal information they intended to hide, or even begin to negotiate against themselves. I once sat in a negotiation where I stated a high price and then stayed silent for what felt like an eternity, nearly 45 seconds of absolute quiet. The other party began to fidget, they began to talk, they began to justify why the price was high, and eventually they talked themselves into agreeing to 90% of my terms without me saying a single word. Your mouth can cost you millions, your silence can earn you a fortune. The fourth arena is the poison of gossip. We live in a culture that thrives on the destruction of the absent. It is an easy way for small-minded people to feel a false sense of bonding, but when the conversation turns to gossip, your silence becomes your brand. If you speak against it, you may seem self-righteous, but if you participate, you become a commoner. Strategic silence is the answer. Do not laugh, do not nod, do not contribute. Your silence in the face of gossip builds a reputation that money cannot buy, the reputation of a person who can be trusted. People realize that if you won't talk about others to them, you won't talk about them to others. You become a safe harbor in a world of betrayal. Fifth, you must understand that true learning happens in the atmosphere of silence. Everyone wants to appear smart by asking clever questions, but every moment you spend talking is a moment you are not absorbing. The greatest students are those who practice extreme listening. They absorb the nuances, the body language, and the wisdom hidden between the words. I transformed my life when I decided to be silent during learning opportunities. No interruptions, no showing off, just pure focused silence. That silence laid the foundation for every achievement I have today. The sixth situation is perhaps the most counterintuitive. You must be silent after a significant success. When you win, the impulse is to broadcast it to the gallery for applause. But when you immediately advertise your victory, you dilute its power. You turn a sovereign achievement into a plea for validation. Silence after success allows you to internalize the win and creates a mystery that makes the achievement even more impressive when people eventually find out. It shows that you did it for your purpose, not for the crowd. I built a multi-million-dollar business that many in my life didn't know about for years. When they finally found out, their respect for me multiplied because they realized I was the kind of person who worked for the satisfaction of the mission, not the recognition of the world. The seventh stronghold for silence is the hour of anger. Anger is a fire that consumes the vessel that carries it. When you speak from anger, you are not speaking from your throne, you are speaking from a cage. You will say things that burn bridges it took 20 years to build. I have a 24-hour rule. When the fire of anger rises, the tongue must stop. This silence has saved my career and my family more times than I can count. It creates the space for your highest self to return to the driver's seat. Finally, the eighth and most vital situation for silence is the time you spend with your own inner voice. We are bombarded by the noise of social media, news, and the opinions of others. In this chaos, your own inner wisdom is being drowned out. This is why the most successful leaders have regular periods of absolute silence. Intentional disconnection where they exist only with their thoughts. In that silence, clarity emerges and solutions to impossible problems appear. My morning hour of silence is where my power is regenerated and where my greatest ideas are born. True silence is not about being passive. It is about the presence of self-mastery. It is the understanding that not every thought deserves a voice and not every battle deserves your energy. When you master silence, you become comfortable with being misunderstood because you know your truth doesn't require a defense. You become powerful because your presence speaks volumes before you ever part your lips. Words are tools, and like any tool, they are only effective when used at the right time for the original intent. Most people are swinging the hammer of speech at everything and wondering why their lives are in shambles. But when you are selective, each word carries the weight of a decree. People lean in when you speak because they know you do not waste your soul's currency. This is the paradox of dominion. By saying nothing, you often say everything. Reclaim your silence. Reclaim your power. Rebuild your character. The world does not need more talkers. It is waiting for the quiet strength of a leader who knows the sovereignty of his own silence. The era of being a slave to your own impulses and the noise of the world is officially over. You were created to exercise dominion over your spirit, and that dominion begins with the governance of your speech. If you are ready to stop leaking your power through unnecessary noise and start walking in the authority of strategic silence, I want you to make your decree right now. Go to the comments and type, "I rule my silence." Let this be the day you reclaim your mental real estate and prove that you are the architect of your own character. Like this video if you are committed to the discipline of the unspoken, and subscribe to this channel as we continue to unlock the original intent of your leadership potential. Your strength is not in your volume, but in your value. Start governing today.